my name right and everything.
We love spelling those names right. Hold on a second. We'll be right back after this intro. You're tuning in to Geek Speak, a Geek Insider production. We're sitting with special guests in entertainment, news, and tech. So sit back and enjoy the show as we geek out together right now. And good evening, everybody. We are sitting with three special guests this evening. Full Moon Features is interested in expanding the Miskatonic U series from previous films, which have included From Beyond, Re-Animator, and Lurking Fear. And there is a new, so far, two-part, possibly more, feature film, the Resonator, Miskatonic U. And let me just drop this card here so we can say hello to our special guests.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I'm just going to go around the room really quickly and let you guys introduce yourselves and what part you play in Miskatonic U, or I should say the Resonator.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Cool.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Byron, and I play Professor Philip Tillinghast.
And I'm Michael Pare. I play Professor Wallace.
And I'm William Butler, and I am the creator, writer, director, craft services guy for the show.
Yes, indeed.
Just kidding.
Now, I've read a couple of things here.
And COVID officer. You're the COVID officer also.
Oh, the COVID officer.
Which is why you all have it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
That's why Michael is quarantining in his car right now.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Now we know that Charles and the Full Moon Feature Gang over there, that you, when you work with them, you have a tight timeline on filming. How long ago did this project start, and how long was it from the time from start to getting the first episode?
Well, that's the first time I've been asked that. I'm actually very glad you asked that. Like 3 months ago, I had dinner with him. And he's like, hey, I want to do an ongoing series. What do you want to do? And I was like, I want to pay homage to Empire Pictures. And I'm not kidding you. 3 weeks later, we were filming.
That's how Charles is.
It's so insane. No one knew what hit them. But, I mean, it's, in show business, and I won't go on and on, it's either one of two things. Either you've been pitching a project for 10 years, or you think of it on a Saturday and you're filming on a Monday. There's no in between. It's either right away or in 10 years. Lucky for
but
us.
you picked a great project. H.P. Lovecraft is great material to start with, Billy. So it's not a surprise you could get it up that quick.
Correct,
now,
for sure.
So how was it that you were able to get the team together then in so short a time?
Well, it was during COVID, and, we really lucked out on all fronts because not a lot of people were filming. So the quality of performers, the quality of crew, the fact that there's no product to air really helped us. Like, it elevated every department because there wasn't really a lot going on. So people that may not normally read it, and I'm happy to say that I feel good that the writing ended up being good. But normally you hear the name Full Moon and there's a select crowd that will come. But this time people were willing to take a chance and read it. And thankfully, because of the H.P. Lovecraft angle, because of the Stuart Gordon angle, and because I've written a script or two, we all managed to pull it off, and it was great.
I worked with Billy once before, and I was looking forward to working with him again. We made a movie called Furnace about, 5 or 6 years ago, and we've been looking for something ever since then.
Yep.
And shooting in L.A.
No, you go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I did shooting in L.A., made it really easy. Just go back and forth to work into, hell. Hey, Billy Butler, H.P. Lovecraft in L.A. You can't say no.
Now, I want to ask everybody, and we'll start with you, Michael. Was this your first project with Full Moon? And then we'll go around.
I think so. No. Yeah, actually, this is the first Full Moon production I've been involved in.
Gotcha. What about you, Jeffrey?
Well, it's technically the first Full Moon production, but I've worked with Charlie, many eons ago when it was under the banner of Empire. And, Billy, I knew socially. We were on the sort of the Academy party circuit. And what I didn't know until Billy told me was that he actually worked on the 2 films that I did for Charlie all those years ago. And so that was a huge surprise. And then he brought my name up, I guess, to Charlie. And Charlie said, "Is he out of jail yet?" And the answer was yes. And
they're letting everybody out.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. Couldn't be happier. Charlie and I go way back, many adventures. That was a really special time in my life as an actor. And, we did really for that era, the 2 biggest films that he had ever done budget wise. And so that was really fun, really exciting. And by the way, one last quick thing is that when I showed up for work the first day on this wonderful project, suddenly I meet people that have been with Charlie all those years, which is just crazy. And that says a lot about Charlie, about loyalty.
And tell them the name of the film so that they know. These are the 2 of the most popular films.
So the first film I did with Charlie was the sci-fi feature film called Metal Storm. And, the backstory on Metal Storm was Charlie had this I remember meeting Charlie for the role. And Charlie said, we're going to do this sci-fi movie. It's kind of like Mad Max. And, oh, by the way, we're going to do it in 3D. And I was like, 3D? And so he was such a visionary because 3D had sort of been, wasn't really, it was very passé until Charlie had read the tea leaves. And that very same year, Jaws 3D was made, and a film called Space Hunter, which I think was for 20th Century Fox. Those were really big budgeted films. And in the middle of production on Metal Storm, Charlie shuts down the production. I'm thinking, oh, we've run out of money. And no, it turns out he wanted to go to Cannes and he wanted to bring me with him. And he found out that Universal was really, really not happy with Jaws 3D and that movie was going to have a very short shelf life. So what he did is he brought Metal Storm to Cannes, just put together a 15-minute reel, and Universal bought it for $5 million, which was, and our film opened in 2,000 theaters, and it really wasn't meant for that kind of an opening. So, and then we followed that up with The Dungeon Master, and that had a really strong following, fan following. So, so that's my history of Charlie.
And William, we know that you've worked with him, but how far back does your history go, and what projects have you worked on with Charlie?
I started working for him in 1983. I worked on Metal Storm, Dungeon Master, Troll, Re-Animator, Robojock, Spellcaster, Ghoulies 2, Prison, all of them. And then after a while, I made the jump, and I acted for about 15 years, and I washed the fake blood off my hands and did that for a while. And then I just, I love writing so much. I wanted to see if I could direct, and I've been doing writing and directing ever since then. Although I'm hearing through the grapevine I might be doing a movie in September as a comeback. So we'll see if it works out. But yeah, I'm excited.
One of the things that I love to do is go around the room and ask people their Genesis story, because as creators and content creators, creative people, there's growing up a lot of times we say, well, I want to do this. I want to be a writer. I want to be an actor. I want to be whatever it is. And your parents are probably looking at you like, that's nice, but how are you going to pay the bills? Was this kind of did you kind of trip into this? Was this purposeful? I mean, how did you get to where you are? And did you have the support with family, or were you kind of battling the whole way? Was this plan A all along?
Michael, go ahead.
No, show business was not a real consideration for me. I got kind of picked out of I got picked off. Well, here's the story. I went to cooking school and I was working in restaurants in Manhattan. I was a cook, and the cooks got off at 11 o'clock. My girlfriend was a waitress at a bar down the street, so I would get off of work and I'd go sit in the bar where she worked. And it just happened to be a show business bar. It was across from ABC where they broadcasted the news. So Grips and Electric, the news guys would hang out there, and New Yorkers. And this agent lived in the neighborhood, and she was a regular. And she sat down next to me one night and said, Michael. Oh, she said, are you an actor? And I said, no. I kind of brushed her off because my girlfriend was from Queens and she was a very, very cool chick, right? And so the next night she says, I know I asked if you're an actor, but what do you do? And I said, I'm a cook. And she says, you're not acting, nothing, model, no, nothing like that? And I said, no. And Anita here is my girlfriend. Anita said hello. Hi, Yvette. Yvette Bickoff was her name.
Yeah.
And so night after night, she was chatting me up, and I stopped by my brother's one night and I said, Terry, this chick in the bar told me that she would send me to acting school. And, but I've got this job lined up in Marseille as a prep cook. And he said, Michael, you got your cooking career is going just fine. Why don't you just go to class and see how it works out? So I had lunch with her. She set it all up. I could go to class in the afternoon with this guy named Robert Modica, who was teaching at Carnegie Hall. And I walked into class, and it was full of beautiful women. Now, here's the hook. You see, as a cook, all the waitresses were actresses or dancers or models, and they didn't talk to cooks. But you go into an acting class, that's the great equalizer. Suddenly, if you could get up and do some interesting work, all the girls wanted to talk to you, and you got to go out with the pretty women instead of, So anyway, that's how I got hooked in. And about, I have a bunch of great stories about this. I'll give you one more. So here I am. I'm studying acting during the day and going to class twice a week. And I meet this girl who asked me if I wanted to do a student film with her, and I didn't know quite what that was, but it was like a 20-page film. And by this time I was living with the girl in Soho, and she had a big loft. And I said, yeah, you could probably film in her place. So we shoot that film, and like after we get done, she says, she calls me up and says, Michael, would you like to have dinner with me in Salvador Dali? And I said, whoa, sure, where? And she says, at the Loughran. And I said, oh, that is a fucking great restaurant, because I was a New York restaurateur, right? And she says, do you know who Salvador Dali is? And I said, no. And she says, oh, my God. So I show up at the Loughran, and you had to wear a jacket and tie, which didn't bother me. But there's Salvador Dali. There's a table, with like maybe 14 people, and there are all these characters. And Gala waves me over and says, here, you sit next to me. Gala Dali is Salvador Dali's wife. And she asked me what I'm doing here. And I said, I'm with Vivian, who I'm still in touch with. It's really funny. She reached out to me recently.
Very cool.
Yeah. And she says, so what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a cook, but I'm, she says, but Vivian. And she says, come here. And she pulled her face really close to mine. And she's looking in my eyes. And then she says, show me your hand. And I show her my hand. And she takes a flower off out of the, the flowers on the table. And she's pulling off the petals, and she's looking at me. And she says, in 6 months, a woman is going to come into your life and make you a national name.
Wow.
And I said, really? And she says, yes. And I said, is it Vivian? And she says, I don't know who it is. 4 months later, I went in on a cattle call that Joyce Selznick was running for ABC's talent development program. And I snuck in because my agent couldn't get me in. Agents were allowed to get 2 submissions. I followed one of her clients in. So I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm standing in the hallway again at the Loughran. That's where they were. The suite was that they had rented. So I'm standing there and I'm looking at the sides, and this woman comes out with a cane, and she looks at me, and I thought, oh fuck, I'm caught. And she turns around and she goes back into the enclosed. She closes the door and she comes back out, and she says, so you're an actor, huh? And I said, yes, I am. She says, listen, I'm running this show. And I said, I'm sorry. And she said, listen, we're going to take you to Hollywood, and I'm going to put you on television. And I said,
shit.
Really? And she said, yes. Now, a week from today, you got to come back here. We're going to put you on tape, and trust me, we're taking you to Hollywood. Well, I came back a week later. We shot this 2 scenes. One was from what would eventually become Dallas, and another one was a sitcom. And I prepared the scenes and did everything. I don't know how I fucking did it, but I went in, we shot it. And after I shot it, she says, now listen, we're going to send you a contract. And I got $10,000. I got the check cashed. I had $10,000 in cash. Right. And I went to the bank with my knife kit because I didn't have a gun at the time. And I put $10,000 in cash in my knife kit. I called my brother. We went to Rockefeller Center. We drank 4 bottles of Piper Heidsieck champagne. And the waiter was, as the 3rd bottle came over and says, how do you intend to pay for this? And I opened my knife kit bag, and there was $10,000 in cash. And he says, okay, fine.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and that's how I got into the business.
Did you
story.
even have a headshot or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now,
I've been studying for like, a year and a half by now.
Yeah, but before
okay.
that, when they first discovered you, you hadn't been modeling or anything. You were just a cook.
No, I wasn't a cook. I was an actor. I was in acting class. Come on.
No, before you're sitting in there drinking a good-looking man sitting at the end of the bar drinking highballs.
No, Yvette got me a couple of gigs, because she was the head of talent development at Zoli Models. But I couldn't model. I wasn't the type. She got me a couple little gigs, and it was like, I don't know what the fuck it was. You get $100 a day.
Now, William and Jeffrey, are y'all good to go past the half-hour mark?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Sure.
Because we haven't really talked about the movie yet, or the show.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't get that. We didn't get the genesis.
I know, but because we only have Michael for a set amount of time.
No, I said you had me until I said I plan on doing this till 5:30.
Yeah,
Right.
Jeffrey.
It says
but that's only 10 more minutes.
Williams.
No, it isn't. 5:30.
He's in the West Coast.
It's 4 o'clock here.
See, I'm thinking Mountain Time or something. Never mind.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Let's go to the next
one. He's trying to get rid of you, Michael. See?
No, I thought we only had him for a half hour. That's why I kept saying we would block that off. Okay,
Jeffrey,
cool. Because there's a question that I would be remiss and get yelled at with all your fans here if I don't ask. So
the
that's
email
what I was
said
moving to.
4 to 5:30. So that's
all right. Cool. All right,
Jeffrey,
great.
how about you? What's your Genesis story? Was this plan
story, mine is an inside job. So I grew up in the movie business. My mother was a really famous actress whose name was Anna Lee. She was British, and she made over 100 films. She was in The Sound of Music. She was in How Green Was My Valley. She had a long association with the director John Ford. She did more movies for John Ford than anyone but John Wayne. She did 9 of his films. And so a number of years later, when I was born, John Ford, lucky me, became my godfather.
Holy cow.
And then my mother's last husband was a very prolific American novelist. His name was Robert Nathan, who was this incredible guy who I adored. And he wrote roughly 50 novels in his lifetime. And 5 of those books were made into movies. 2 of them were multiple Academy Award-winning movies. One was called The Bishop's Wife, which was Cary Grant, David Niven, Loretta Young. That was nominated for 7 Oscars.
Wow.
And then the other famous title was Portrait of Jenny, which was a David O. Selznick film I think that was nominated for 5 Oscars. So anyway, I grew up in the business, and when I was very young as a child, my mother's agent was over at the house one day, and I think I was all of 5 years old. And suddenly he went to my mom and he said, God, he's a natural. I mean, let's put him in the business. And my mom came up to me and she said, would you like to act? And I was like, sure. I mean, I didn't, so suddenly I go out for these casting calls, and I was, by the time I was done, because when I turned 12, I really kind of got bored of it. So I went to my mom and I said, I don't really want to do this anymore. And she was like, no worries. But from the time I was 5 until the time I was 12, I was arguably the third most successful child actor of my generation. There was Ron Howard was number 1 for sure. He was huge.
Right.
And then there was this guy named Billy Mummy from Lost in Space.
Oh, yeah.
I did more work. I was in, this is, by the way, this kind of connects the dots to this world in a way. I did the very last episode of The Twilight Zone ever made. So it was the last episode produced. It wasn't the last one that aired, but it was the last one that was produced. So I did The Twilight Zone. I did tons of episodic television. I did movies. John Ford put me in a movie called Donovan's Reef. So
did you get to meet Rod? Did you get to meet Rod Serling?
Rod Serling. Yeah, I met Rod Serling, and not too long ago, I met his daughter Anne. That was really, that's a really fun piece of history to be a part of, So.
Oh, definitely.
And then I left the business completely until I was about 19 or 20, and I really didn't have any intention of getting back into it. I was very athletic. I was really into sports. I was pretty good at basketball. I had a couple of scholarships to smaller colleges, but I wasn't good enough to make it to the pros. And then I just kind of fell into acting again because I needed to make some money, and I started booking all these commercials, tons of commercials, back and forth. And then this is kind of a weird Hollywood story, I guess. I've always been a cinephile. I've always loved movies, and I know a little bit about movies, and especially older movies. And so when I was, in my late teens, there was this new filmmaker on the scene who I really thought was quite talented and reminded me of filmmakers from another era, and that was Peter Bogdanovich. So he made, Nick, what did he make? He made
What's Up, Doc?
The Last Picture Show. That was his big break, right? And then What's Up, Doc, etc. So I literally wrote him a fan letter, and I had one ace up my sleeve. He idolized, literally worshiped the ground that John Ford walked on. So when I told him that I was John Ford's godson, he met with me, and then he put me in 2 of his movies. And then that started my adult career. And then that led to a movie. I did this movie that, this was around the time, Michael, that your career was really taking off. This was, I think we were kind of similar. I did a movie, which, by the way, wasn't successful at all, but it had a huge amount of pre-press because it was a sequel to an incredibly famous movie, but a sequel that was made 25 years later. And I was in a film called International Velvet. It was the sequel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I starred opposite Tatum O'Neal, who was a huge star. And I gave her first on-screen kiss. So I got ridiculous amounts of publicity for that. But the really cool thing for me as a young actor is I got to work with Anthony Hopkins. I got to work with Christopher Plummer.
That's cool.
So, and I became great friends with Hopkins, who I've known all these years later. And, just how cool is that? And then that just started my climb. And then I started doing a lot of TV, and then forgive me, I don't mean to be taking up all this time, but I'm almost done because it gets me back to our starting point. I was up for this huge series to play like one of the lead characters, and it was the biggest casting of that time. I was up to play the lead in Dynasty, and they saw every actor in town. They saw literally thousands of actors. They narrowed it down to 4. I was one of the 4. Then they narrowed it down to 2. I was one of the 2. And then they took 10 more weeks to make the decision. And like
geez.
every
10
time
weeks?
my phone rang, I was like on pins and needles, which is ridiculous. Looking back, what an idiot I was. But you really think like, oh my God, this is going to change everything, right? So long story short, I did not get it, and I was so bummed out. Oh my God, I was like in the dumpster for that. And about 2 weeks later, I get a call to go in for Metal Storm. And I was the very first actor that they saw for Metal Storm. And I do not know why they did this, but they didn't see any other actors for my role. They hired me that day.
That's cool.
So,
that's very
cool.
Then they brought in all these incredible, like now, all these years later, all these great women to play opposite me. I screen tested with Demi Moore. I screen tested with, 3 or 4 of these women that everybody will know now. And of course, the girl, God bless her, who got the part was Kelly Preston. So I worked opposite Kelly, and who was a dream and wonderful. But anyway, the point is that, things always work out the way they work out, and it was fine. And here I am today. So
it's a good journey.
That's a hell of a journey. Now, William, you got to follow that up.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I'm just playing.
By the way, I was wondering, Michael, where, because I worked, I did 2 soaps in New York, and I worked, at 66 in Columbus. So
that's where it was.
That
Chip's Pub on Columbus Avenue, 67th Street.
I probably have been in there 100 times. So
and McGlade's, right? Remember McGlade's was right next door.
I worked on 66 and I did both One Life to Live and All My Children. So I was there for 2 years.
Well,
so
Chip's Pub was in Big Ralph and Little Ralph.
Street.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hilarious.
I mean, all the stagehands from Madison Square Garden worked there. Hung out there. There was, the Westies hung out there also. All those guys who weren't in show business were thugs.
Right. Is it still open?
No. I took my son there and said, "This is where it happened, son."
That's so
nice.
Well, I don't really have a lot to say. I'm just plain old white trash from Fresno. Is that how's that? No, I mean, I started making Super 8 movies when I was in 4th grade. It was the worst day of my parents' life when they gave me a camera because it's all I wanted to do. And I was absolutely addicted to watching films and television. I read everything that I could about filmmaking and acting. And then my parents, worked with my mother, worked with Barnum and Bailey. We did a lot of catering and stuff for them. So I was around show business and the circus and carnival my whole life. And when I was 17, I decided I wanted to figure out how to get into acting. I had absolutely no idea how to do it. I moved to Los Angeles, and just waited on tables and bartended everywhere I could until I met with John Buechler. I told John Buechler from Mechanical Makeup Industries that I would sweep the floors in his shop for free if I could just watch how people made movies. I did that for about a month, and then the next thing I knew, I was part of his team. He flew me to Spain. I worked on Eliminators. That's where I first met Michael. I think I was 17 years old. Michael was doing a movie there.
You were there with Buechler?
Yeah, I worked on Eliminators while you guys were shooting. What was it?
Marine Issue.
Marine Issue.
Tawny Katane and Charles Napier.
Yeah, when I was there, I had an audition to play your brother. I guess there's some reason that you have a brother.
No, it wasn't a brother. It was a guy who was also in the military.
Is that what it was? Yeah. This is so long ago. And then I went from that. I worked in Spain, and then I moved to Italy for Charlie Band, coordinating for him. And then Charlie was so gracious once he realized that I wanted to act. He gave me my SAG card, and every single time I worked on a film for them, they would let me have a part. And by trial and error, I learned how to act. And then eventually, when we went back to Los Angeles, I just started acting and somehow managed to keep doing it for 14, 15 years. And then, like I told you earlier, I just have my whole life really have loved writing, loved creating. And, the truth is I'm a much better writer and director than I ever was any of the other things. Although I absolutely love painting and all that stuff. So I do kind of miss the special effects aspect of it. So that's here. I'm here now, not dead yet.
Yeah. You know, what's kind of funny is that when we had Charles Band on, Matthew was like, "Oh, I'm such a huge fan of Puppet Master," and he's like, "My dream is to be killed in one of your movies."
Y'all didn't know that y'all are looking at the next star.
Don't tell him that. He'll fly
I already did.
I
already did.
Yeah.
He told me he's going to get me killed off in one of the Puppet Master movies.
He
said if I shave my beard, I'm out of the movie.
Right.
So, because I told him that was the only stipulation, is I wasn't going to shave, and he said, "No, if you shave, you're out of the movie." After COVID,
I was in the last remake of Puppet Master.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Hell!
We shot it in Dallas, as a matter of fact.
Well, the hell, you're in my neck of the woods. Now, I do got to say something real quick. What Jeffrey mentioned a minute ago, and I loved this word. He said cinephile. I hadn't heard that word. I get called a movie whore. I like cinephile better because I'm the same way. I love movies. I watch them all the time. Meredith and I both get screeners all the time, and we love the indies. That's why we love Full Moon Features so much. I've been a fan since back in the 80s. But I watch a lot of movies, and I've been accused of being a movie whore for a long time, and now I'm going to correct them and say I'm a cinephile. So.
Well, you know,
there you go.
But that's spelled with an S.
Now I'm going to put this up real quickly because
we need to talk about it.
Right, the Resonator Miskatonic U. Now that premiered on February 26th on Full Moon Features. So if you don't have a subscription, you can go month to month. Definitely head over there because they've got a lot of movies. It's not just horror; they've got a lot of stuff.
I love that. I love that channel so much. They got the greatest the most obscure movies you could ever see. The weirdest old school mom and pop videotaped. A lot. Elsa the She-Wolf. They got everything, man.
Yeah, but this poster you made for our movie is fucking great, Billy.
Thank you.
It's a great poster.
It is.
Yeah. They all worked really hard on that.
And I tell you though, I had for a good while, I had the Full Moon Features channel on Amazon. And then they ran a promotion to where I'm going to get actually an executive producer credit on one of the upcoming movies. But if you got the fullmoon.com or fullmoonfeatures.com, and I like that subscription a lot better than Amazon. There's a lot more that's on there. Now, I don't want to put down the Amazon thing because I know it's really good for Full Moon. And if you've got and like I said, I had it for a good while. It is very convenient if you have Prime just to pop that channel on. And there is a lot of stuff there. But if you go to the official website, there's a lot of the times, man, you will get the whole collection of Puppet Master for a year's subscription. And that was a hell of a hard choice trying to decide between executive producer credit and all the Puppet Masters.
I mean, I can't believe he told me he was doing that. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that like an even exchange? Like, he's like, he's like, I'm actually losing money on it. But he's hoping that, that the viewers will like dig around on that website and see all the cool stuff that's on there, which, I mean, I watch that channel once a week. There's always some weird old movie on there that I haven't even heard of, or my own weird movies, or
or just the things that were from the library, the Full Moon Library, that you saw years and years ago, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, I want to check this out again.
Yeah, so good.
It is.
I did have a question, William. Now, I don't know whether to call this a show or a movie because on the trailer it says it's a 2-part. But go ahead.
Well, here's the deal. I think that the idea, the original idea, my idea was that we're going to keep doing it from the moment that I pitched it and he said yes. I knew that I had worked on From Beyond with Stuart Gordon. I have a tremendous amount of love and respect for Stuart Gordon. I'm very aware of the H.P. Lovecraft world I'm a huge reader of all of his stuff. I knew that we were going to get it right. I think the idea on a corporate level was if, God forbid, nobody watches it, they could cut the two pieces together and make it into a movie. And even if people do watch it, they could cut the two pieces. So I think it was a bit of an insurance policy to say, it's a movie, but I mean, you can tell by watching it that it's a TV series. I mean, I wrote it as a TV series, and thankfully, he's approved me to do more episodes. So I'm writing part 3 and part 4 right now, and so yes, it's a little bit confusing because I think that there was the caveat that if I screwed it up, it would end up just being a movie, and I definitely have heard from people that it's like, wow, it ended as if the story's going to continue. I'm like, that's because it's going to. Now, we now know. Yeah.
Well, you know how many times we get pitched independent movies? Oh, this is a backdoor pilot. And this is the first time it's worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you just never know. I've never worked on anything where the acting was so superb. The effects were good. The fans are happy. I would say 95% of our reviews, the fans are really behind it. The other 5% can suck it, but I never worked on a project where everything. I just believe that the project was made with a lot of good nature, and we're all fans of, And I also feel in a dopey kind of way that Stuart was guiding my hand. I know that sounds silly, but he was a tremendous. We were. If you watch the behind the scenes special, you will see that both Mike Deek and I, we worked on every bit of From Beyond, and we knew at least what not to do on it. And I'm certainly not bragging. I'm so grateful that it turned out good. And we all know it's a crapshoot that any project ever, you don't know whether it's going to be good or bad while you're shooting it. We all lucked out, and that all the pistons were firing at the same time.
Well, now
I
the
wanted
first
to say
episode.
one thing.
Yep, go ahead.
It was a great experience to work on it. I thought Billy did a fantastic job. He really kept everybody together. The crew was absolutely first rate. I mean, what's so nice about going to work on a film, and this doesn't happen every time. Michael can attest to this, but when you go to work and everybody's kind of into it, and it's sort of like a family, and everybody's, helping each other out. I thought all of the actors, the kids were great. Michael was fantastic. Amanda was great. And, you could tell that everybody really enjoyed the experience. And when that happens, I think it really shows on the screen. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jeffrey. But, because it starts with the material. And it was great material. Billy adapted, the original HP thing to this contemporary. It was just like, oh fuck, this is gonna be fun. If nothing else, this is gonna be fun to make. Especially when he said, I get to put the mask on. I get to put this mask. It's like putting a condom on your head. It's that.
Oh my God! I had to leave the room.
There's a moment where you don't know if you're gonna be able to breathe, and it's like. Oh, wow, this is great. And it lit up, and it had like lights inside the mask. Wow. It was so cool.
And as the director, I have to stand there with a straight face, like, yes, this is very normal what we're doing. Meanwhile, I'm shitting my pants, thinking, are we about to kill Eddie and the Cruisers? Like tugging this fucking mask on.
Yeah, every time you put one of those masks on, it's a different experience. I've had, those molds where they make a mask of your head. Jeffrey, you probably had this happen. Where they cover you in different material. In Hollywood, they cover you with this very soft, like it's made from seaweed or something. It's very light, and if you get nervous, you can just tear it off. Where other times, you don't know. I did one. They made the mask. I was in a hotel in Belgium and nobody spoke fucking English. And they made the mold with plaster of Paris, right? So when it started hardening, I had to have it on for 45 minutes, right?
Did you have straws up your nose?
Yeah, exactly. But I have sinus problems, But it was like, Michael, if you're gonna play the vampire, you have to get this mask made. And I was like, oh. But sitting there, and they're talking German, they're talking Belgian, they're talking French, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to smash my head on the table to get out of it, But the whole time, playing monsters, you gotta put it all on the line. I think.
Well, about the time that he got the. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I had a mask made, and guess who made it, Billy and Michael? John Beekler made my mask.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I worked with Beekler, but I didn't get to wear any special effects. He was a great guy.
I'll try to get off the subject of this godforsaken mask, but I will tell you that about the time he got the neck over his mouth and his nose, and it was so tight, and he was pulling it. They're all pulling it. I'm like, oh my God, please put some Vaseline on his head or something. Put your foot on his head and cram it in there.
Shave his head.
I was like, are we ever going to get it off? Do we have to cut it off with scissors, or is that his new look?
Well, I was betting that there would be sequels, you know.
Thankfully, that character is now dead. You will no longer have to be.
I was going to say, when you had it on, did you get to walk around town and all that with it?
No. He was afraid I'd steal it. Right.
Yeah, we had to return it. No, I'm kidding.
But I do have the ring that Professor Wallace wears. I have the ring.
Oh, very
That's
cool.
good. That's good.
Yeah, very cool. Now, I do want to take a quick second real quick here, Meredith, just to give a shout out to our friends over at mobileedge.com. Folks, if you've got your expensive electronic equipment, whether it's video games, computers, laptops, whatever it is, they've got the hardware, or the what do you call it, Meredith? It's not hardware, but it's the protection for your hardware. But if you go over there to mobileedge.com, and when you check out, you use Geek25, not Geek Insider, Geek25, you get 25% off. And that's from our buddies over at mobileedge.com.
All right.
Now, Michael, go ahead, Meredith.
I had a quick question, because having seen the first episode, and I know that, speaking with Charlie before, that he goes really fast, very fast with the pace, and he wants product quick. That turnaround.
As we learned 3 weeks from just.
I've seen these special effects. They are really impressive.
Thank you. We built them. We built 90% of them in my backyard, because I thought, well,
oh my God,
we couldn't go anywhere, and I had a garage, and I was like. Greg Leitner, who's incredible foam fabricator. He came and just stayed in the guest room, and every day we would just sit in the backyard listening to music and, go do the designs. And it was really fun. I can't wait to do it again, frankly. It really did remind me of working at Beekler's, that kind of, hey, this could be a monster. It was just that kind of a world that we were living in. And they all came together. Lots of slime. Just as long as it's covered in slime, you really can't go wrong.
And like I said earlier, I have truly been a fan of Full Moon since back in the heyday. I would go to the video store, and if I saw the Full Moon Features Moon on there, I'd rent it. I didn't give a damn what the title was. It was, I liked Full Moon. And so it was a great honor to meet Charlie a while back when we did. And I know, that nobody wants to bite the hand that feeds them, but I have heard nothing but good things about working with Charlie. So, William, I want to start with you. Okay. If you could give Charlie just one critic, what would it be?
To always know that I'm always right, and that
I love it.
Our show was originally called Miskatonic U, and he calls me and goes, I got a great idea. I'm like,
that's a scary call again.
I thought I told you never to have great ideas. What is it? We're going to call the show Resonator. And I'm just dead silence. No. And he's like, no. And I was like, Charlie, you're wrong. And damn it, I'll be damned if I didn't hang up the phone. And 10 minutes later, I was like, it's a better title. But yeah, usually that would be my one critique. Okay, I want more money.
But then you just contradicted yourself with that. You're always right, and then you gave an admission of when you were totally wrong.
Listen, I'm a narcissist. I'm in the film business.
And now I'm going to continue on here because, Michael, I was going to ask you a question earlier. Like I said, we've got a lot of Eddie and the Cruiser fans here, and you gave some insight on you getting into film business. How did the whole Eddie and the Cruisers thing come about? Did you audition? Yeah, see, I knew this was going to be a good story.
Well, it's kind of funny. We were shooting the second season of Greatest American Hero. They took us to the Caribbean, right? And I was just a supporting character on that. And my best friend at the time, Don Cervantes, was also on the show. So on the way back, we flew through New York and we got off the plane without permission, without any notice. We just got off the plane because I said, look, we're not scheduled to work for 3 days. It gives us 5 days in New York. We'll go crash with my brothers. We'll have a great time. And we did. And when my agent called and said, what are you doing in New York? And I said, how do you know I'm here? And she said, well, because they were calling looking for you and you don't answer your phone. And I called your brother. It's the only other number we had. So anyway, I said, you can't. I got yelled at, okay, essentially. And she said, since you're there, there's a director that wants to meet you, and we're going to send the script. And I said, my brother lived we lived on the Lower East Side. Like in our building, you know, there was a story done in New Yorker magazine about the heroin trade in Manhattan, and our building was featured. You know, it was the apartment below ours was in the story where you put your $20 under the door and the dope comes out underneath. It was a very bad neighborhood. Right?
Well, or good, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, right. There was a methadone clinic across the street, and we were a big heroin building. So she says, what's the address? And I give her it to her. And she calls me back in 3 hours and said, they won't deliver to your neighborhood. You're going to have to go up to William Morris. So I'll go up to William Morris. I pick up the script and I read it that night. And I said, so what part is this for me? And they said, just go up and see the guy. So I go up to his address the next day. And he says, so Michael, you read the script? I said, yeah, it's really artsy, man. And he says, do you sing? I said, well, you know, I sing like Sinatra, you know, that's really my bag. And he goes, mm-hmm. And do you play musical instrument? I said, yeah, I play guitar. And he says, are you good? And I said, like Jimi Hendrix. I had no idea this guy was gonna hire me. I thought I was just goofing around. I mean, I wasn't there to get a job. I was just doing what I was told. So when I get back to California, they say, Michael, they really like you. And I said, obviously the guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. But you know, these adventures go on and on. So finally we go through 2 different rehearsal or improv sessions, he was calling. It was sounding pretty, you know, artsy fartsy. And they brought me back to Manhattan to meet the guy who was going to do the music. And he was a pretty famous guy, James Brooks. He wrote You Light Up My Life. But what he was famous for were commercial jingles. So me, Matthew Lawrence, who plays bass in the movie, and Marty Davidson, the director, we meet at Jim Brooks, and it's a fucking, you know, a brownstone on the Upper East Side. This guy was fucking loaded. And we go in, you know, on the door under the stairs, and there's a cabinet with like, I'm not kidding, like 40 different. What do you get the awards you get for jingles? Emmys or what kind of awards you get for jingles?
Oh, I forget
Music
the name
awards.
of it. Yeah,
Well,
I forget the name of it.
Things.
Tonys.
But Jim Brooks has a stutter, right? So I'm a real fucking wise guy when I was young. Right?
No.
So me and Matt and Marty go in there, and you know, Marty's acting like a thug, you know, because he's from Queens and he's a tough guy. And we're gonna go in. So we go down into James Brooks's studio, and he says, "Okay, Michael, come on." And I said, "What?" And he says, I'm gonna play one of the songs, and you come in at the right moment. And I said, and I had never sang a song in my life. I mean, I was like, you know, a drunken singer. That's the only singing I did, you know. I never sang in my life, and this is it. It's down to the fucking wire. So I'm standing there, I'm sweating. And I'm starting to, it's starting to get cloudy. I can't quite see. It's like I'm seeing those black spots before you faint. I'm getting ready to faint. So he starts the intro. Dun, 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 and he says, Michael, you got to come in. Oh, all right. I'm sorry. So now my heart is racing and I'm really dripping sweat on my face. And he does it again. Dun, 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 and he's, Michael, what's the matter? And at that moment, I'm starting to faint, right? I'm out of my feet. I'm starting to sit down. Marty stands up and he says, that's it. We're getting the fuck out of here. And I thought, oh shit, I'm caught. And he says, what kind of bullshit is this? This isn't rock and roll. This isn't going to be in my movie. Fuck you. We're leaving.
Oh, shit.
So Marty, me, and Matt, come outside and it gets a cool breeze, and Marty says, "What happened in there?" And I said, "I don't know, man. I didn't like that music either." So, but it goes on. It goes on. So it was a whole series of fucking accidents. I'll take up the whole show if you let me go. So
oh my God, I really would love to hear those stories. But
I gotta know though. I gotta know real quick though, Michael. Were you single when Eddie and the Cruisers came out?
Yeah.
Okay, so how long after Eddie and the?
Okay. Shortly after that, I was.
Oh, yeah, because all the women were coming on to you. Yeah.
Now, I did want to ask this to Jeffrey. Was there any point when you were acting or when you were approached for a part where they said, "Can you do this?" and you flat out lied?
No. Oh my God.
You're going to get him busted, Meredith.
Actors don't lie. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean,
come on. You don't get to go to the actors' retirement home if we lie.
Not like a significant movie, but all the time when I was doing commercials, like they'd always say, can you ride a motorcycle? Sure, no problem. Whatever.
Horses always. Yes, absolutely. I love riding horses.
I did a movie. I did a small role, but I got to work with Robert Duvall, so that was pretty cool.
Ooh.
I did a movie for Joel Schumacher with Michael Douglas, Falling Down. And
that was a great movie.
And I played.
That's where he goes nuts, right?
Beginning of the movie, Michael Douglas, who's had it, gets out of his car on the freeway and leaves. And then Robert Duvall, who's a cop who's about to retire, he's like 30 cars back and is fed up. What's going on? He gets out of his car. He's walking towards the abandoned car, and a California Highway patrolman pulls up. That's me. So they had me work with a stunt guy for 2 weeks riding a Harley, big police Harley. So, and I could ride it. It wasn't like that difficult, but of course when it came to shooting the movie, no, we'll just use a double. So it didn't really matter that I could ride it or I didn't ride it, but that was me in the beginning of that movie. So
I love that movie.
But they gave you 2 weeks of rehearsal. When I was on Streets of Fire, they didn't ask me if I could ride a motorcycle. And the night before I had this big motorcycle scene, I went to the stunt guy, the prop guy. And I said, "Fuck, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't ride." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "I've never been on a motorcycle. I'm from New York. I don't even fucking drive a car." And he says, "Wait a minute." And he called up the what do you call it? The guy who's in transportation. And they put me on a motorcycle in the rain in Chicago, riding up and down the street. And that first shot, I had to come down the street, around the corner, and pull up really cool in front of the whole fucking camera crew in the rain. And this is how I know there is magic in movies. I did it, and I did it 3 times. And I was like right in front of Diane Lane, Rick Moranis, and Amy Madigan. Boom, right? And I said, "All right, I'm going to run these guys for a while." And it was like such a dangerous thing. If I had slipped, I would have hit the camera crew, Diane, Walter, they all would have been wiped out. Yeah, sure, I can ride. Don't worry about it.
Now,
but I never lied either.
We haven't talked much.
What about you, William?
Go ahead. Yeah.
What's that?
Anytime that you flat out said, "Yeah, I can."
A billion times. Yeah, riding horses. I used to say I could ride horses all the time. I used to say I could play baseball. I couldn't even hold a baseball bat unless I was chasing somebody with it. Constantly. I mean, I bullshit my way into like painting at John Beekler's. He's like, "Hey, can you paint?" I was like, "Can I paint? Of course I can paint." Start painting. You do it long enough, something sticks. It sticks.
Now, we haven't talked much about Resonator. And William or Billy, why don't you tell us, what is Resonator? What is it about? We know that the guys play a couple of professors, but tell everyone what this is all about.
Okay, so basically the story is inspired by the H.P. Lovecraft story, Resonator, or From Beyond. And basically a young scientist, student of science, carries on his father's work to build a machine that vibrates the third eye. Everybody has a gland in their head called the pineal gland, which many people believe is the third eye. Yep. And the Professor Tillinghast's original work was to hopefully prove that people that have schizophrenia are not really seeing things that aren't there. They're actually seeing things that are there. And as he built this machine, he started to realize, like, wait a minute, it may not just be schizophrenics. It may be people that think they see ghosts, or people that think they see UFOs, or they see time travelers, or when tweakers think they see shadow people. It may be doing something. The drugs might be doing something to your pineal gland that allows you to see into these other dimensions. So they build this machine, but they're 90% there with the design, because it seems to always cut to the chase of it lets you look into alternate universes, which is amazing, but very bad things can be released because it's not, the science isn't perfect just yet. And so our show follows that journey of the young scientist who's trying to continue his father's work. In the meantime, when you turn the machine on, sometimes it creates a tear in time, and time loops back on itself. So while Professor Tillinghast, played by Jeffrey Byron, is in the show, you don't know if he's a ghost, or if he's really there, or if he's if they're in another dimension. Yeah. And I have to tell you, studying to write this to make sure that I wasn't writing horseshit was some of the best research that I've ever done. It's so fascinating because it's all based on things that really people really believe, you know?
Well, I have not had a chance to watch Resonator. I'm in the middle of a move and a whole bunch of crap. Yep. But your explanation right there just gave me, and Meredith hates when I talk like this, but it gave me a mental boner, because that stuff is right up my alley. I love the multiverse stuff. I'm a big fan of the Mandela effect. And me too. Just the whole concept. And so I am definitely going to be checking it out. And my show, Geeky, Cheeky, and Downright Freaky, will kick off here again in a couple of weeks, and I'll be promoting Resonator on it as well, because that's exactly the kind of stuff my audience likes. But Meredith, go ahead. Good. I know you had a question.
Now, having seen it, I don't know whether Michael's character is a good guy or a bad guy, and I don't want to give any spoilers or anything like that, because I really do want people to see it. But having and knowing that we don't yet have episodes 3 and 4,
they're coming. Let me say, science is beyond duality.
That's right. He believes, whether or not your perception of him is good or bad, he believes what he's doing is good. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in the show. You will find that Amanda Wiss's character, you know, Amanda Wiss, who was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, she plays one of the professors at the college. You're going to find out that she's also got her fingers in a lot of things that could be perceived as evil, but in her mind, they're necessary. So that's why I enjoy writing dialogue and scenarios for those kind of characters, because he doesn't think he thinks he's saving the world, you know? It's like, I mean, look at the way the world is now. Everybody, you know, where America's split in half. Some people are absolutely convinced that their way of living is the right way, and the other half believes it. And if you talk to either one of them, that somehow they're able to make sense of their point of view. And that is kind of how these characters are. They believe they're doing good. And I'm so excited to be expanding on the story. If neither one of you have seen episode 2, but a very, very important and very character with a huge impact appears in the last 5 minutes of episode 2, and he is an intricate part of episode 3 and 4. We're going to be basically absorbing all of H.P. Lovecraft's working characters into this Resonator storyline. They all go to school. Yeah, I'm so excited. And I'll tell you, Matthew, there are going to be elements of this show that hardcore fans like you will love. And there's going to be some of it where you're going to say this feels like CW, but just give it a chance. There's a little bit of young, fresh, you know, they're probably a little young and a little fresher than we're used to. But they're all terrific actors. And I think if there's any
nudity too, isn't there?
there's tons of nudity.
Oh well, then you got
yeah.
me. You got.
If I'd say there's
any
any notes from anybody that I saw that did not like it, and I'm willing to hear it out, is they felt like it was a younger spin on an older genre, and it's just it just happened to work. Though it works.
I want to add one thing, that yes, there's a lot of young, fresh, and new, but then they've got Michael and me, the old and not fresh. So
right.
And I am so not fresh. I am not fresh at all.
I just want to shout out, because this is all new to me, this world. We got all these great people blogging in, talking about, there's a guy named Timothy Melican. Thank you, Timothy. Thanks for watching. All these other great people that are checking us out. So we really appreciate your support.
Now, I got to ask something that he threw out, that Timothy Melican. He called you Lord Byron. Are you actually a lord?
I am not.
Oh, okay. All right. I just had to ask.
But the title sounds amazing.
You wouldn't know it. You would not know it.
My loving stepfather, Robert Nathan, who was this great novelist, when he married my mother, I was the youngest child. I was the only child that was around to live with them. Everyone else was grown up, and I had not lived with them for more than 3 days when Robert Nathan started calling me Lord Byron. That was his nickname for me. So when I hear that, it's always with great affection.
So Timothy is a huge fan then. If he knew that, he's been Jeff. Yeah.
He must have remembered. He obviously remembered Metal Storm. So, there you have it.
Well, and so we are at the hour mark. How are you guys doing? Are we okay to go
on time?
I'm great.
A little bit.
I'm great.
Okay. I'm just going to put
Michael,
this up here
money
again.
in the meter?
No, I'm not in a metered spot.
I'm kidding.
Put some change in your.
I've been doing this a while. I know where the meters aren't in Los Angeles.
Did you get a permit? Since this is a TV show, did you get a permit?
Right, official work.
And this is the Resonator Miskatonic U, which is on Full Moon Features right now. Make sure that you get over there, get a subscription, give it a try. You know, they go month to month, so it doesn't break the bank, and they've got a lot of quality content up there.
And like we mentioned earlier, in case you're just tuning in on the podcast or you're just joining us live here on the YouTube channel, a lot of the times Charlie and the crew over there run these specials that you can get a year subscription and then you get shit that is worth just as much. Like you get Puppet Master, the whole collection, and which I'm still kind of kicking myself in the ass for not taking that, because I'm a huge Puppet Master fan. But really,
I'll make sure you get them. I'll make sure.
No,
really?
I wanted to.
I'm not even gonna
ask you guys something. It was something that William said earlier about research. Whether it's researching to write the parts or whether it's researching to play the role. Have you ever gotten lost to the point where you're like, oh my God, where am I? And how do I get back?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Let Jeff start.
Well, I mean, I think, every actor, starts with whenever you begin a role, you're always looking for the truth of the character. You're always looking for something that you can connect to. So in this particular case, and Billy is such a good writer, and there were so many great, really for a program, a show that obviously has horror elements in it and, the special effects, but these characters are really grounded. Like my character, which I really connected with as an actor, as a person, by the way, was that I was an absentee father. I was never there for my son. I was just completely obsessed with my work. All I cared about was the work and the Resonators. So I found that to be really interesting to play. And the terrific actor, Dana Oliver, was so great to work with. And Billy and I have discussed this, that in future episodes, we're going to explore that more. We're going to explore that father-son relationship. You know, the guy that just was never there for his son. He was just sort of self-centered. And to me, as an actor, that's really interesting to play.
And I think that's also what keeps the audience. I think that's why the audience is connecting with the show, because I did really try to put in, you know, they say when you write, raw, ugly truth is really what the audience will connect with, and stuff that you don't necessarily want to talk about. For me, I had a horrible relationship with my father, and I just vomited out on the page and watched Jeffrey sort it out for me. You know, just keep it real. Keep it very real. And, you know, we all are chasing after the approval of our parents, one or the other. That's been a really nice therapeutic way to write that storyline and to add more layers to each of the other characters as we go along. Super excited about that. And I also like the idea that they kind of ping pong a ball around into different dimensions. The thing that's cool about this show is that a person that can be a bad guy, like in part 1 and part 2, might be a good guy in part 3, because reality is shifting in this show. So just give it a chance. If it's not your favorite show, give it a chance. I promise you will love it, because it is getting better and better with each episode. And that's not just because of me. That's because of such an incredible team.
Now, Billy, have you seen the movie that came out just this last year that's called The Mandela Effect?
I've seen all those. I love all that stuff. I love Butterfly Effect. I love all those documentaries. I'm obsessed. Obsessed.
Yeah, we met the writer, director, and the cast of The Mandela Effect. We loved the movie. I'm a Mandela Effect-ophile, I guess you would say. I write about it a lot. I have a lot of shows about it. And I was just wondering
crazy
if you had seen that before you got this going, because of course that just fits right in this genre.
Well, the truth is that I read about a lot of that stuff on my own anyway, and so that's why I knew when he asked me what I wanted to do, I don't want to bullshit the audience. If we were going to do it, I want to pick a subject that I knew about, and I know a lot about that, and I love to absorb as much as I can about it. I did see the movie. For someone that is as nerdy about reading all that stuff, I was already on board just by the title alone. I mean,
of course.
There's so many bizarre things that happen. If you read about it, you fall down that rabbit hole and you can't stop reading, you know. It's like
I had to stop because I fell down that rabbit hole a few years ago. I saw some very earth-shattering things. And then you get obsessed and you start just diving down that hole and you're questioning everything. Am I awake? And it just becomes so surreal. And so I had to back off of it, but I have blown Meredith's mind with like the double slit experiment and just various other Mandela effects. And those kind of things that really can make you question reality. And that's why I like these kind of shows like Resonator or the movies, is because it brings more people into that fold of not just accepting reality. I mean, guys, Einstein said it best. My favorite quote, it's in my bio on geekinsider.com, is that reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. And that's from Albert Einstein. Wait, Michael, I see you talking, but I don't hear you.
Somebody just tried to call me. You got me?
Yeah. Now we got.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like I'm a big fan, and some people might think it's hippy dippy, but I'm really into the law of attraction and manifesting your own destiny.
Oh yes.
And you know, I mean, it really works. It works on both ways. You can fall down, you can get into a bubble of despair and have nothing but bad news into your life if you keep saying you're going to do it, and you can wake up in the morning and feel like you're going to have the best fucking day of your life and have it. I mean, it's really true, you know.
Agreed.
Billy,
You're navigating your own journey.
Right.
Billy, I've got to have you on Geeky Cheeky and Downright Freaky. We need to connect to where I can have
a business card. That's actually on my business card.
Well, I definitely need you on.
As a writer myself, I love doing the research, and there's a lot of times when I'm following it and I'm following these breadcrumbs, and then before I know it, I'm so in depth and like. The story that I was writing was like, oh my God, it's not even anywhere near what I thought it was going to be. Have you ever, have you done that?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the journey.
Well,
I mean, I try.
And then how do you bring it back then?
Well, maybe you don't, maybe you don't, maybe, you know, these stories, you're building a world, you're creating a world. You try to write out your basic beats. Sometimes I work backwards, which really works well for me. Like I see the last scene like this,
and then you work,
and this is the last scene. Then I go backwards. There's a very good writing exercise I highly recommend for anybody who's a screenwriter. And I won't dominate all this with screenwriting talk, but if you lay on the bed and you know the movie that you want to do, and you lay on the bed and you just watch the movie trailer in your mind, what is in the trailer? You know. Is it a superhero movie, a guy who's a loser and then he gets his superpower and he has a big battle and then he kisses the girl? And see these scenes in your head and write all those scenes on little cards if you're old like me and you still use cards, which I do. And then you kind of organize them all, and that's like the skeleton of your story. Look at your last scene. What's your last scene that you want to see, the biggest payoff? And then write it, and then work into it. And it's so much fun. But the truth, to answer your question, many times it starts to shift, you know, particularly if you have a writing partner. I can't have one. I'm too much of a pushy shithead. Like I have to be right all the time. So everyone hates writing with me. But so yeah, that's what I do. Sometimes I change it. And then also you can tell when someone's reading it. Have a table read. You see the actors reading something, you can see if someone's shifting in their chair if it's horse shit. You know, just throw it out the window if it sucks, and everybody collectively will help you put a Band-Aid on it. All right, I'm stopping talking.
No, wait, but real quick.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to throw out there. I mentioned coming on my show, but everything you just mentioned there, Billy, we do several shows a show several times a year where we have a panel on with various directors and writers, because we have so many fans that so many audience members that are fans of the indie movies and writing, but they're also exactly. And that's the big thing, is those that are trying to do it, we can put these panels together and get inside your brain to where you share in your creative process, like what you just did there, and help so many other people that are wanting to get into this field. So again, that's something I'd like to I'd like to connect with you later in the year.
Anytime.
My question, I guess, would be to all three of you. William, because you're the writer-director, what was it like kind of directing these guys, and how much improv was there? Or did they kind of stay pretty
No improv.
strict?
The thing I love about these two in particular, I don't mind improvising, but the thing I love about these guys, and that's one of the greatest things about being a director, is figuring out how each actor works, and they all work different. They all have a different way. Some people rip their pages out of the script. Some people have to bury themselves in a hole in the backyard. Some people have to do study, research. Everybody works different. But the thing that is good about these two is they're very, very, very polished, and they're very aware of the material. They don't waste time with a lot of bullshit. They're sitting in their chair. You tell them to come do the scene, and they fully are present and in this shot and in the scene. They do the lines as they're written. If there's anything that needs tweaking, they either say, hey, I'm going to say this. Is that cool? And I really don't care as long as it makes sense. And they work a lot alike. And that's why I love working with Michael. And now I had first time to work with Jeffrey, and I will continue as long as he'll have me to work with him. And they just know their shit, and they don't need to be complaining about anything else other than I'm here to act. They're in the scene, they're present, and then they go home at the end of the day. It's a director's dream come true.
I was going to say we lost Michael. Yep.
Oh, he'll come back.
We'll try and get him back.
He also has that hard out, doesn't he? He's got another hour.
I'm telling you, he had to put money in the meter.
Probably got hot.
Yeah. He got a ticket. He got a ticket, a parking ticket.
Oh no.
Yeah, the meter maid got him, and he's having to go out and argue there.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to comment on what Billy said, because it's a two-way street. You know, it's really great when you can work with a director who has a command of the set, who makes everybody feel at ease. That has so much to do with it. Sometimes directors can be really uptight, and that doesn't necessarily help the actors. Billy was a dream to work with, and I would work with him.
I mean, I do carry a chair and a whip, but
Well,
just for show.
Sorry,
one thing
Billy. That was my boss calling over and over again
Oh,
shit.
on my next gig. I said I'd
Oh.
call back in 10 minutes.
do you need to
well-
get going? Well, we're going to be rounding up this and ending very soon anyway. But so I wanted to thank you all for being part of Geek Insider.
Yes.
This is Geek.
Yes.
And
Thank
we had
you.
a lot of fun.
But we've got a one question that we have to ask. But first, I want to go around roundtable real quick. Tell everybody, we'll start with you, Billy. Tell everybody where, can they follow you? Are you on social media? How can they keep up with what you got going on?
Yes, thank you for asking because I always forget. I am on Instagram as the William Butler. Please follow me on there. I have a book coming out on May 1st that is a chronicle of my entire journey from working for Empire Pictures, living in Rome, acting in all the major horror franchises, directing Tom Sizemore. That's 2 chapters in itself.
We were supposed to have him on a month ago, and he didn't. We never got him.
That seems strange. That seems unusual to me.
How unusual, yeah.
How unusual? Why would he not show up?
We got the writer and director of the movie, but Tom just
I don't imagine.
Now,
That
Timothy
happening.
in chat says pre-order Billy's book too.
Yes,
Tawdry
Tawdry
Tales.
Is that what it is?
Audrey,
So if you look on my Instagram, there's a link in my bio. I hate to hooker this book too much, but please buy it. My dogs need dog food. There's a link in there. It's called Tawdry Tales and Confessions from Horror's Boy Next Door, and there are some stories in there that are going to peel the wallpaper off your house. There's some pretty raw. Talk about raw, ugly truth. I was quite a wild child. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to hit your PR agent for a copy.
You got it. I will get you one. I'll probably see you sooner than later. I'll get you one.
Fantastic, Michael. We know you got to go, and you probably got to. You said, you got an hour and a half, or an hour at least.
Yeah. Well,
but you go next. You go next. Tell everybody where they can find you, follow you.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, like everybody else. I'm also on Signal, and but there's like 7 or there's a whole bunch of Facebooks and there's a couple of Instagrams because I keep getting hacked. So and then I start a new one. So I'm not.
You gotta make that password better. It just can't be your last name, Michael.
Right. It cannot be password 1 2 3 4
or Eddie.
Wait a minute.
Eddie Cruisers.
Yeah. So there's several people who are posting stuff. That's not me. It's not me. I never said that. And then a lot of it is me, and I can deny it. Because it's
right. There you go. Right.
Perez. Yeah. It's not such an uncommon name. It's not like Lord Byron. There's a lot of Byron's out there.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm on Facebook as Michael Pare. So
I run a very liberal account with Michael Pare's name on it. I put a lot of bullshit out there.
He's a huge
Jeffrey Byron. I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter. So
fantastic.
Excellent.
Well, guys,
thanks for having us.
We want to say goodbye. Oh, yes. God, Meredith, I almost fucked up. Oh, and you muted yourself, as you said. I know.
I was
look,
you almost screwed up there. Yep.
All right, we'll start with Michael. Guys, we ask this of every single guest on Geek Speak. So, and who goes last is going to have a little bit of a head start here, because Michael, we want to ask you if you could go back in time and just give your younger self just one single piece of advice. What would it be?
Restraint of pen and tongue.
Nice.
Learn to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was a very fancy way of saying that.
Yeah. Jeffrey, how about you, sir? Or Lord
this
Byron?
one's easy. Appreciate every day and every moment of every day.
Love it. Love it. Billy.
Mine's heavy. When your father tells you that you're worthless and you'll never do anything, tell him to go fuck himself.
Dude, Billy, I think mine and your dad were related. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I moved out at 16. But gentlemen, we very much enjoyed this. Folks, if you haven't already done so, check out Resonator on the Full Moon Features channel on whether it's on Amazon or on the Full Moon Features website. This is, like I said, I hadn't had a chance to check it out, but Billy's got me all with a mental boner of wanting to check it out because it is.
But it build it up too much.
All right. And on that note, you guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been Geek Speak. We're out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.